Today we're taking a side-by-side look at the GoPro Hero 9 versus the GoPro Hero 8, and we're gonna try to answer the question, should you upgrade? So I've had the GoPro Hero 9 for about 3 days now, shooting just constantly with it. And for the last 2 days, I've had my GoPros in this side-by-side rig on my selfie stick so I can get some footage comparing the GoPro Hero 8 versus the GoPro Hero 9 side-by-side. The goals of answering the question, should you upgrade? And to cut to the chase, I think the short answer is gonna be probably not, and the long answer is gonna be kind of just depends. But before I get into my detailed thoughts on answering that question, I do want to go over some disclosures. Both the GoPro Hero 8 and the GoPro Hero 9 and all the accessories that I'm using today were purchased with my own money. No one sent them to me or is paying me to make this review, and no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. Although I did put some footage on Instagram and Twitter yesterday, so you guys could vote, some of you guys who are following me already on those social media platforms. And it was interesting to get your thoughts as well as to which one you guys thought was better. Now, with the disclosures out of the way, let's talk about the GoPro Hero 8 versus the GoPro Hero 9. So the way that I'm gonna use both of these cameras is gonna be the same, and I wanna talk about my use case, which may differ from your use case. And I think that also might change the answer to the question of whether you should upgrade. For me, I like to use my GoPros for two main things. The majority of the time I'm using my GoPro, I'm using it to capture running footage, whether I'm capturing pictures or footage of my feet as I'm running, as I'm reviewing shoes, or as I'm capturing footage of the races that I'm running or some of the terrain that I'm running on, that kind of thing. And that's what I use it for the majority of the time. The other thing that I use my GoPro for is to use it as kind of like my home video camera. So I'll use it for, I guess in 2020, we'd call it kind of vlog footage. But for me, it's just for home video use. Instead of putting all those videos onto my iPhone, I like to put it onto the GoPro, whether I'm talking to the camera or not talking to the camera, whether the kids are talking to the camera or not. It's just kind of easier to have that little compact device to use as a separate kind of standalone device rather than having things like on the phone. You can always get things to the phone if you want them to from the GoPro to the phone via the app, and it's pretty simple to do. So those are my two use cases, and that's primarily what I'm going to be looking at. And to test out how these cameras do at filming those types of events, I'm going to be looking at 3 of the GoPro's main new features. One is the improved hyper smooth. 2 is 5K footage, which is available for the first time in a GoPro, and I think on any camera that I've ever owned. And also I'm going to be looking at the front-facing screen that is available on the GoPro Hero 9, which lets you kind of see yourself. The first thing that I want to show you guys, and I'll kind of set it up and then let you guys kind of watch the footage. Some of it's side by side, some of it is like the same scene, like one right after the other, so you guys can see like all 4 corners of the image, and others is side by side, so you can really compare them at the same moment, at the same time, with the same lighting. I try to keeping it as much the same as possible, but let me set it up for you. On the GoPro Hero 9, here's where things might get a little bit kind of like controversial, I guess, is for the GoPro Hero 9, I used the 5K 30 frames per second setting. Now, there isn't a comparable setting for that on the GoPro Hero 8. So what I'm going to use for the GoPro Hero 8 is 4K 60. Both of them are at the linear camera kind of angle. I'll say angle, air quotes, because when you're looking at a GoPro, it's got a fisheye lens and it can shoot like super wide, so it sees like everything, but the corners get kind of like curvy. Then you could do wide, you could do linear, which has no fisheye, kind of like this camera here, and then you can do narrow, which is even closer. So those are like kind of the basic parameters that I've set up for this one. Everything else is kind of the same. Hypersmooth is on. Hypersmooth 3.0 for the 9, 2.0 for the Hero 8. There's no burst Hypersmooth that's on either one of these cameras. GoPro color is set on. Auto shutter speed. Wind noise detection is on auto. So pretty much everything else is kind of like standard, how it comes like straight out of the box. So that way you can just kind of compare it. I know that like it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison, but I wanted to do kind of like for family video type of footage, the best that one camera could do versus the best that the other camera could do, and put those head to head. So here it is. Good morning. It is Wednesday, September 23rd. We're gonna do a test side-by-side comparison, GoPro Hero 9 versus the GoPro Hero 8. Hopefully this footage works out. This rig that I have stuck to the windshield here is bouncing around quite a bit. I'm not sure how well it's gonna work, so we'll see how it goes. But today is gonna be a day where I gotta go change the oil in this car. And with the baby, we're gonna go for a walk while the oil's getting changed, maybe, depending on how long we think it's gonna take. I think it'll just be a good day to try and put some of this footage side by side together. What do you think? All right, cool. So we have dropped off the car at Uncle David's shop here in Guttenberg. It's gonna be about 45 minutes for the oil change. And me and the baby, we're gonna go for a little bit of walk. Guttenberg is a river town, so we're gonna head over to the river and just enjoy the day. It's a nice day, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah? You excited to go for a walk?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Time shine where darkness haunts me. It's in the past, I believe. Lights falling to.
What day is it today?
What day is it today?
Today is Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
September 23rd.
September 23rd.
We're in. Where are we?
Guttenberg.
What are we gonna do?
Take a walk.
Where?
At the river.
All right, there it is. You see it over there?
I'm there. The puddle?
Yeah, in the water.
Right there?
There it is, yep. Now it's underneath some other plants and stuff. All right, should we keep going and see what else we could see? The water is very still today. We might be able to see more fish.
Yep. Maybe it's because it's very frozen.
It's not frozen. It's just that there's not a lot of wind today, and there's not a lot of boats on the water. When there's boats on the water or when there's wind, that's when the water gets hard to see through. But now, because it's very calm, we can see what's in the water.
Lines falling too fast, don't know if I'm ready. Your gleam is all I've got, so rise over my path, over my story. Show me which way to go, 'cause I don't know how to be sure. I don't know how to be sure.
All right, come on. Whoa. There we go.
Dad.
Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. Were your legs tired?
Yeah.
Oh.
Very tired.
Well, you did a good job walking. You walked for about 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
What?
That's really good.
What?
You walked for 45 minutes today.
Did I?
That's a good walk.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. You proud of yourself?
Did I?
Yeah, you did.
How?
Good job. Because you're a good walker.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
It must be going everywhere.
That same squirrel. We see him everywhere we go, don't we?
Yeah.
So taking a look at the sample footage there from the river walk down in Guttenberg, I think a couple of things that I pulled away from it, and I'm sure that you guys will pull away different things from it. The main difference is both of these cameras are really good. I didn't have any like major like, oh, this one is so unusable or this one is so much better than the other. In both cameras, I felt like they did a really good job of capturing the day, capturing like the essence and spirit and feelings that we were kind of like experiencing at the time when we were down there. I felt like the audio capture was pretty good for each of those as well, considering that I didn't bring like an external mic, a windscreen, none of that, just the camera on a stick, and we're out and going. I do think that the Hypersmooth 3.0 in that kind of situation where I'm just like walking at like a regular pace, trying to follow a 4-year-old around, so I'm getting a little bit lower, some of the angles are a little bit different in terms of like just a normal like walking posture. I feel like the Hypersmooth 3.0 does a really good job. There's a couple times though where I did think that the Hypersmooth 2.0 from the GoPro Hero 8 did better. But I think part of that is because that camera is a little bit wider. The 5K at 30 frames per second cuts in a little bit closer. The 4K 60 of the GoPro Hero 8 is just a little bit wider. It's still a linear lens, but it's still like zoomed out a little bit, it seems. And so I think that makes it seem apparently more stable because you're not as zoomed in close. So like for the example, if you took like a telephoto lens, one that had like an adjustable zoom on it, and like held it handheld at say like 55 millimeters and then zoomed in all the way at 210 millimeters, the optical stabilization or the electronic stabilization, whatever you have, or whether it's just handheld, will be the same in both situations, but it'll look more jittery when you're really zoomed in. So that's an extreme kind of an example. So I think that's a little bit of what's going on here. I do think ultimately though that the 3.0 is much better. And for those little like accidental jitters where I'm walking and maybe like I have to watch my step or I'm stumbling, or not stumbling, but like kind of like not as smooth of kind of like that weird shuffle that you do when you're trying to get smooth footage. When I'm not exactly doing that completely right, that's when I think that the Hypersmooth 3.0 definitely shows up a lot stronger. I also think though that the image that I'm getting out of the GoPro Hero 9 is just a lot sharper. Whether it's because it's 5K or whether because the sensor is better, I'm not sure exactly what the dynamics are there. But not only when I'm zoomed in, I feel like I can zoom in a lot more on that 5K image and still have really usable footage. But I also feel like when I'm zoomed out and I'm just letting the image fill up the entire screen, I feel like everything that's in the background and foreground are just a little bit sharper. Nothing that's like blowing my socks off, but definitely if you're looking at it side by side, I can tell when I'm looking at one and then the other, it's a little bit less apparent, but it's something that I definitely noticed. The more I look at the footage, the more it's easy for me to like pick out right away, like which one is which one is the GoPro Hero 9 and which one is the GoPro Hero 8. The other thing though is, here's the thing, is that I don't know how much of the GoPro Hero 9's 5K footage I'm gonna use. I really love 4K 60, because of the fact that it does let me slow things down just a little bit. And I feel like when you could put things in slow motion, even if it's not like action footage, just like stuff like walking around with the baby around town, when you could slow it down a little bit, I feel like it puts kind of like more of like an ethereal feel to things, where it's a little bit more timeless. And I'm doing this for some reason to kind of express that. I'm not sure what that means, but it just makes it feel like a little bit more effervescent, and it makes it feel more like my mind remembers it, if that makes any sense. So I do like to slow things down a little bit more. So I think that even though the GoPro Hero 9 has 5K 30, I think I'm gonna be using the 4K 60. Here's what I would have loved to have seen in the GoPro Hero 9, and here's what would have made the GoPro Hero 9 an absolute no-brainer for every single person should upgrade to it. If they made it 4K at 120 frames per second, I'd pay twice the price and still recommend that everybody upgrade to it. Well, maybe not if it's twice the price, but I'd still recommend that everybody upgrade to it. I just really like to be able to slow footage down, especially home video footage as well. Although for the most part, I do keep it at regular speed. Those instant moments, and I can never predict when they're gonna happen, where like a touch lingers, a smile lingers, like a look, a feeling, a sensation, an emotion, just like, it's so fleeting. To be able to slow it down, I think, is really powerful. And so I'd much rather lose the 5K footage and have only 4K footage, but have the ability to at least bring it from 60 frames per second, slow it down halfway to 30 frames per second. At least gives me a little bit of something. So I think that's what I'm gonna use there. And I think that because the image quality does seem to be better on the GoPro Hero 9 at all of the different resolutions that I've seen, and we'll get into that more, I think that the 4K 60 at the GoPro Hero 9 is better than the 4K 60 at the GoPro Hero 8. Now let's switch gears a little bit, and we'll switch over to what I spend most of my time using GoPros for, and that's for capturing running footage. And to set this up, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to do a little bit more of an apples to apples comparison here, and I'm gonna use 1080 footage and 120 frames per second. And then I'm gonna either play that at real-time speed, or I'll slow it down to 25%. So you're still getting 30 frames per second, but since I had 120 to begin with, like a 4-second clip can become a 16-second clip. So that's how like the slow motion works. And just so you guys know, this entire video that you're watching now, I'm rendering that out at 4K and 30 frames per second. So the 5K footage kind of gets scaled down. The 1080 footage is going to get scaled up, so you might notice some kind of image artifacting because of that upscaling, but that's essentially what's going on, and let's take a look at that footage now. So I think that what I can tell from looking at this footage is that the GoPro Hero 9 has a clearer image. I do think though that the GoPro Hero 8 seems to be handling changes in light just a little bit better. Like when I go from looking down, whether I'm looking down at my pedals on the bike or at my feet, and then I like pan up to look at like a bright sun. I feel like the GoPro 8 is responding a little bit better, and it might be doing a little bit better on hazy sunrises. So in that like shooting situation where it's, you know, it's not quite golden hour, but you're getting a really interesting like yellowish light. I feel like the GoPro Hero 8 is doing a little bit better of a job at it, but for the vast majority of the time, I do think that I can pick out which one is the GoPro Hero 9, and I do think that the GoPro Hero 9 is a better camera at capturing 1080 footage as well. The other thing that I do need to test with this, and I didn't have enough time to do it on this particular run, is to really dial in. Now 2.7K at 120 frames per second is available. It was available before in the Hero 8, but only at the wider angle, so a little bit fisheye. Now on the Hero 9, it's available at linear, which is the camera angle that I like to shoot running footage at. So that's something that I'll have to do a little bit more testing on as well. My initial tests with it were really, really low light, and that was not that satisfactory. But the 1080, 120 frames per second that I got today, I'm really happy with. So in terms of the kinds of stuff that I normally shoot, in the ways that I normally shoot it, the GoPro Hero 9 is doing much better. So now with all that out of the way, I'm gonna talk about whether or not you should upgrade. And I think that to answer that question, I know I put a preview of that at the beginning of the video, but to elaborate on further, I think that there's really 3 types of people, maybe 4, that I'm talking to. And the first and the fourth, if we put a 4th category, are easy answers. If you have no action camera, and if you have no action camera whatsoever and you're thinking about action cameras and you're wondering whether or not you should buy this, I'd say the answer is no. Don't get this one unless the purchase price really isn't an obstacle for you and you just want to get a really good camera, you don't want to have old technology. That's fine. That's kind of like the same answer as the 4th type of person, which is the person that just wants to have the best action camera that they can get. Get this one, you're going to be happy with it. Even if you have a pretty new GoPro Hero 8, you want something better, you're going to spend the money, go for it. Definitely, it's worth it. The improvements are definitely there. But I would say for the person that has no action camera at all, I would say normally I would say go with a refurbished version of last year's model. So go with the refurbished GoPro Hero 8 because you get lots of savings and you're getting plenty of technology in there and you're really gonna love it. But this year, I'm gonna say go with the GoPro Hero 8 because of the pricing. And I don't know if it's permanent pricing that's gonna be like this for the entire year or if it's just temporary during this initial push. Right now, the GoPro Hero is a little bit cheaper for both the Hero 9 and the Hero 8 because they're trying to get people to subscribe to the GoPro subscription service. It's like 50 bucks a year. You get like cloud storage and all these other like features, none of which that I'm particularly all that interested in. But you can sign up now and get that $50 value for free, and it takes off $50 from the GoPro Hero 8. So at 300 bucks, if you don't have any action cameras, get the GoPro Hero 8. You're gonna be super happy. Just remember to cancel the GoPro subscription before like your year turns up so you're not paying 50 bucks every year, unless you want it, but that's what I'm planning on doing. For the people who already have the GoPro Hero 7, that's another relatively easy answer. I'd say go for the 9. The nice thing about that is while you save 50 bucks on the purchase price this year with the promo, right now with the promo on the Hero 9, you're taking 100 bucks off the purchase price of the 9. So if you have the 7 and you've been using it and like it, if you're looking to upgrade, get the 9. If you have a GoPro Hero 8 and you're not sure whether you should upgrade, and there's nothing that I've talked to you about, the front-facing screen, the 5K, none of that stuff is really like compelling you to go buy it already if you still haven't decided, I'd say don't buy it. Just wait for another year, wait for the 10. The only caveat to that being if you are doing a lot of, like, let's say you're doing interviews with your GoPro, or you really want to make sure that you're framing everything correctly and that front-facing screen is a compelling kind of like purchasing point for you, then I'd say get it. But if you're happy with the footage that you're currently getting out of your GoPro Hero 8, I don't think that you need to get the GoPro Hero 9. So those are my thoughts on the Hero 8 versus the Hero 9 and whether you should upgrade. And I guess also the GoPro Hero 7 versus the GoPro Hero 9, although I didn't have any footage comparing the two side by side. If you have any questions about that, feel free to leave them down in the comments down below. I'd love to keep the conversation going down there. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?